Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show, where we every single day celebrate all the amazing people across the great state of Mississippi who are working so hard in the trenches to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, listen, I had the opportunity recently to have conversations about Chevron. I talk about Chevron all the time because, as we all understand, it's a critical part of our economic engine here in coastal Mississippi, and it's important to the state of Mississippi. We can't talk enough about energy policy and the role that the energy sector plays in Mississippi from an economic development point of view, from an economic point of view. That's why when I like to have on the show from time to time my friend Austin Golding. His family owns Golding Barge line up in Vicksburg, and he does a lot of chemical and petrochemical transfer by barge all across inland waterways of the U.S. Has a good kind of finger on the pulse of what's going on around that world. And so let me welcome him to the show now, and then have a couple of comments I'm going to make to him. But Austin, how you doing, my friend?
Doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me again, Ricky.
Listen, I checked. The last time you were on the show was November of last year. It's amazing, really. You think about how much time has flown by in that period of time. It's amazing, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And I tell you, it's been a fast news cycle. So thanks for making some time for me.
Well, look, it has been a fast news cycle. Listen, the last few times that we talked, I mean, it's amazing how much difference a few months makes. But you look at this time last year, we were looking at a drought. We were looking at incredibly low waters on the Mississippi River. We've gotten plenty of rain. So what's the status of the Mississippi River these days?
Well, it's several feet higher than it was last year, especially here in Vicksburg. So it's a healthy river right now. We've gotten a lot of rain, I think, in the mid-continent this year as compared to last year. So we've had a really good start to our season. I think we're going to avoid some of the low water that we seasonally get when August, September hits, October. And I think we're going to be in good shape. It's been a very, I would say, very common, predictable, easy to manage style of river this year.
Yeah, and we'll explain before we get done, why that's important to your business. But hey, why don't we give people who have not heard us talk before a sense of who you are and what you guys do?
Sure. So we're a mid-size towboat company, and the barges that we push primarily are tank barges. So we have 31 towboats that push 66 tank barges. Actually, 27 of those push the 66 tank barges. 4 of our boats work for a Mississippi company that I bet a lot of people in your neck of the woods know, Warren Paving. We work for those guys in a great Mississippi company. Stephen Warren and his team are top of the line, and they're able to kind of be like us, where they compete with much larger publicly traded companies, but they deliver service and a level of detail that the big companies can't. While I think the versatility of the big companies is their angle, service is ours. So we're moving my primarily gas, diesel, jet fuel, and the products that go into making those finished products. We don't move any crude oil or anything that requires heat or anything, as I like to call it, pre-refinery. Everything we have is post-refined product. It can go either into your car, it can go into plastics production, it can go into different chemical productions. But our barges are typically 30,000 barrel capacity apiece. So they're 297 feet long by 54 feet wide. Our towboats are anywhere from 74 feet long to 140 feet long, anywhere from 28 feet wide to 40 feet wide. Typically 2,000 to 3,000 horsepower. We do have one boat, the Wit, that works for Warren Paving, is 4,500 horsepower. And if you're on the Gulf Coast there, we have about a third of our fleet, about 10 boats that run between Panama City and the greater Mississippi Gulf Coast. So Chevron, as you alluded to, is a huge part of our world. It's a huge part of our footprint over there and a huge part of Mississippi's prosperity. But we provide the bulk of the waterborne fuel for the Orange Beach to Panama City area, as well as a large part of the fuel that Chevron is trading out of Pascagoula by barge.
It's incredible what you guys are doing. If you go to sort of into your war room and look where your barges are at any given time, It's a 24-hour day, 7-day a week grind for you guys, and there's always plenty to think about. But when the water's right in the Mississippi River and we don't have hurricanes in coastal Mississippi, for the most part, it can have a good routine to it, can it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think, a risky job, and managing that risk is the hardest part. You know, the products we're moving are hazardous. The size of our equipment is large. When we have accidents, it's typically pretty serious. So managing that risk is very, very stressful. The best part of what we do is we are a true social elevator. People can get in our industry, break in at $50,000 to $60,000 a year as a deckhand, and move all the way into a $150,000 to $180,000 position with a pilot license. There's other credentials that go along that path that kind of plant you in certain $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 jobs that are credentialed, that if you don't like it with me anymore, you can go work with my competitor and make the same amount. Not many industries that offer you that. Plus, I'll feed and house you while you're on the boat, and you don't get. As a young guy, I didn't have a chance to spend a lot of that money, so I got off the boat. I had plenty of beer money. So, we have a mixed bag of family men and single people, and then people that are kind of patriarchs of their family or their community. So, wide swath, all being socially elevated and all able to make more money than they could somewhere else. They're gone a lot. You're gone 8 months out of the year to ride these boats. When you're more senior position, you can get a day for day job, which is 6 months on the boat, 6 months off. But typically it's 28 on, 14 off, which equates to about 8 months on the boat a year, which is a lot. Which is a lot to ask somebody.
Well, what's interesting about it, though, I remember you and I talking about a picture that I had seen of your team, a picture of your entire team all right. At one time. And one of the points that you made is how many of those people in your company have been with the company for an awful long time. You're lucky in that way, aren't you?
I am. I'll freely admit to you, Ricky, that since 2020, 2021, we've had a lot of turnover, and I've had to replace a lot of leaders. One was, I am a generational inheritor of this business. I'm second generation in this current business, third generation in the industry. And so a lot of those guys that were in those pictures helped my dad get going and kept moving, and I'm having to find my team. Along with that, sure, a lot of your listeners and watchers will appreciate managing young people is more difficult than it's ever been. And so to try to find people that don't mind being asked, why am I doing this? This generation asks that a lot, and they're not asking it because they're second guessing you. Well, they may be second guessing you a little bit, but they want to understand the process. They don't want to have blind faith. They don't have blind trust, and they have a genuine curiosity. So trying to get a new generation of leaders and managers is something we're always trying to do. But yeah, we do have a lot of tenured people here. But I will admit we're in a transitional period now where we're having to find the next generation of towboater and towboat manager.
Hey, listen, I'm a former CEO, as you know, and spent a lot of time in our company talking about retention of employees, retaining employees versus staying on the cutting edge and being innovative and whatever. And, the world today is a mix. You're going to have a mix of senior people, and you're going to have probably more turnover than you want. But I think every company goes through that. And how to manage people, the various generations, has never been more dynamic. I mean, you sort of alluded to that just a little bit, but managers have to manage in a different way today. You can't manage the way you used to. So you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to adapt. And how you manage and how you approach your company culture is going to determine really ultimately how successful you are in retaining employees, and that's the key to success now. I bet you and your young CEO friends talk about this a lot.
Well, we certainly do. I think in Mississippi, executive staff is a challenge. You're going to have a good mix, I think, of people who have a lot of operational knowledge and a lot of field knowledge, but don't know where to go to find a national resource or to be able to branch out from their bubble to learn more and expand their knowledge base and skill set. So, I know that we have a lot of buzz around economic activity in Mississippi now, but I promise you, if you tried to hire 2,500 to 1,500 people in any given area of Mississippi is going to be a challenge. And then for those people, for a 2,000 person company that's a new injection in Mississippi, you're going to need 100 managers. And, that might even be harder to find than the 2,000 employees.
Yeah, it's man, is it a challenge? And then you start to think about quality of life and where they're going to live. And, if they've got families, how does that work? And housing and affordable housing and insurance costs. And man, the list just goes on and on and on. But it's part of growing, it's part of innovating. And we as a state have to tackle that. That's one of the reasons why when we talk about the community college system in Mississippi and how aggressive they've been to think about job training and things like that. I mean, we can't do enough of that. Hey, when we get on the other side, I want to talk to Austin Golding from Golding Barge Line about energy policy and the sort of dynamic situation that we're dealing with today in the presidential campaign, especially. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll see you after that. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I really enjoy my opportunities to visit with Austin Golding from Golding Barge Line because, listen, Mississippi, especially coastal Mississippi, has a big stake in America's energy policy through Chevron and the work that Austin's doing, transferring products from all across really inland waterways of America. Austin, when you think about the energy policy that we're dealing with today, when you look at this race, what does it tell you about where we're headed? Because EV is a part of it, and drilling and refinery capacity. There's a lot of components to this. But what do you see when you look at the current situation?
Well, I think you definitely have a choice between people that I think that you detailed either have a revolutionary approach to oil and gas or have an evolutionary approach to oil and gas. I think the people that want to make it very simple and very binary, that oil and gas is bad, we need to, here's a one-for-one replacement. I think try to simplify it to make people, I think, quicker to understand and quicker to anger over the way that they approach this topic. I think people that understand it from a more detailed approach know that the way that we're making these products is cleaner than ever. The way we're burning them is cleaner than ever. The way we're using them is cleaner than ever, and it will continue to improve. I think you're also seeing a lot of these oil and gas companies call themselves energy companies because they truly are. They're looking for other modes to produce, energy, whether it be wind or solar or biofuels or any kind of renewable energy that's a part of their investment portfolio. So it's not black and white. It's not a one-for-one replacement. And I think you're seeing, whether it be Tesla's stock price, the way that you're seeing the earnings come in on the major auto dealers, EV projects, that it is not profitable right now to force this down the chain to the consumer. The consumer will reject it. And I think at the same time, the consumer and the average citizen will reject a smog-filled city with polluted rivers and streams and a very loosely regulated oil and gas industry. They'll reject that too. So, I think there has to be some common ground, middle ground. But guess what, Ricky? Common ground and middle ground doesn't get people come out to vote. That gets people thinking everything's okay and they stay at home. So both sides now, I think, have to turn up the volume on some of the binary rhetoric when it comes to I'm pro, she's against, and try to get people to the ballot box. Now, if you're in the industry, I know that the subtlety and the downplay that I put on it is probably closer to reality, but if you're in the industry, it definitely feels like your existence is threatened and that you are the boogeyman. And I think you're seeing a lot of people, when they look at the national discourse here, feel like their job's in jeopardy or their industry's in jeopardy. And so we're well aware of that. We've diversified a lot of the products we carry to try to put on a little bit of body armor to be able to take some impact if any of those volumes decrease. But this is a very detailed, complex problem, especially when we have something like such a blessing as oil and gas that has created things and opportunities and transit modes that have improved the lives of everybody. So does it need to be done better? Does it need to be environmentally conscious? For sure. I think we got to hold ourselves to that. But are EVs one-for-one replacement for oil and gas? No. And I'd be willing to have that argument with anybody that professes that to be truth.
Yeah, I think the data on that is already very, very compelling. There's not a business there that consumers will support for the EV area. So the federal government can force this all day long, but every major automobile manufacturer is pushing back now. I mean, the reality is there may be transition in that direction. Hybrid, obviously, is something we should be talking more about. But forcing it is not going to help, and threatening the industry is not going to help, because if you say that the industry is threatened and it ultimately is threatened, then essentially what that means for us as consumers is our costs are going up dramatically. We're just not going. I don't think the average American is going to stand for that. There has to be more understanding about how all these pieces fit together.
Not just cost, but convenience. I think whenever you talk about the time it takes to charge a vehicle, the type of maintenance that has to be done to maintain that vehicle, and the type of risk that it poses, different extreme environments that we find ourselves in, versus the very versatile, very durable, very convenient nature of oil and gas. There's one thing that I think the American consumer values more than anybody else alive's lifetime right now. It's their time. I think my grandparents' generation valued material objects and different things, antiques, family heirlooms, rare objects. That's what a lot of people spent money on and spent time and space on. Now it's experience. Now it's my time off. And that's because on social media and the way that we consume our experiences now, what Southern California looks like. What 38 looks like. What all these great cities and these great restaurants in these great cities and all these great entertainment options are. And guess what? You can hop on a plane and be there in half a day. So I think the way that people move now and the convenience around it all plays into oil and gas's benefit, because people want to get there quickly. They want to get there efficiently. They want to be able to go and do. And I think when you see 3 million passengers a day on our airlines now, record-breaking numbers of people traveling, and the distances they're traveling are farther than they've ever been. When it comes to convenience, time, and efficiency, oil and gas is what's getting you there. And whenever you get in the way of this new era of spending, this new area of experiential investment, and you try to replace it with something that's not as efficient, that makes that more difficult, it's not going to be very popular.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because we need a coherent, consistent, long-term energy plan in America. And if you change, let's say you could change presidents every 4 years, and they could have a different point of view about this. That doesn't help in terms of investment, whether you're investing in a barge or whether we're talking about adding additional refinery capacity. It doesn't help. And by the way, you mentioned this, but the billions of dollars that the industry has spent on clean energy as it relates to oil, I mean, they have made tremendous advancements in cleaner oil derivatives. And this is a story that hasn't been told the way it needs to be told, is it?
No, but I think people have to understand the effort behind those is to make money. It's to not make anybody happy. It's to make people profitable, and if there's a positive environmental benefit, that's great. How is that possible? I think through a lot of government subsidy. You have these RIN credits and these renewable credits that people trade now to make the renewable energy that almost, it's right there between do we do it, do we not? Oh, here's a tax credit, we do it. Yeah. And so that a lot of that renewable business is still very subsidy dependent and very subsidy exposed. So even the renewable pieces that feel really good, that help pass the profit down the line to the people supplying the wood chips or the biomass or whatever the biofuel is made out of, or the renewable fuel is made out of, that's great. But if it costs $5 a gallon, then it's all for naught. So, there's got to be a common sense application, even in the renewable world, that right now is being propped up because it can't compete. Again, oil and gas has made all of our lives a lot better and a lot easier. It's up to us within the industry to continue to make it not such a risk to our environment and not so impactful to our environment, and we can be around a lot longer. Burying our head in the sand and saying we got it all figured out and things are all good to go is not the case. This is very dangerous stuff. This is very toxic stuff, and we got to handle it, burn it, create it the right way.
Kamala Harris has said in the past that she was against fracking. More recently, she said she was for it. She said that she would end offshore oil drilling. That's just not practical, is it?
Oh, no. I think it's easy to say that when you're from California and those are the voters you're talking to. But now when she's talking to people in Pennsylvania, that's a major industry in. Now she's talking to people in the blue wall that are such critical components of this next election. She floats to the center and floats towards common sense. I think she's not voting for. Whether people listen to your show or not believe this, she really doesn't want to spend much time looking for Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama votes.
Right.
She's looking for votes in counties that align with our views a lot more, but they're going to have to be these battleground states. And if a battleground state life gets more difficult because all of a sudden oil and gas exploration has been extinguished and things get more expensive and harder, that's not going to get you elected. So I would, just a personal anecdote, I wouldn't believe any of it. I think in her heart, I think the people behind her administration and the people behind her that will be in her administration would get away from oil and gas as fast as they could, regardless of the impact of the voter. But luckily, we live in a country where the impact of the voter still holds people accountable and honest to a degree. So, I wouldn't believe any of this interest talk. I think that they're completely against oil and gas. And, it's going to be an uphill battle for anybody in our industry if she gets elected.
That is going to be interesting to watch, man. We obviously have a lot of big issues, but energy policy is a big issue, one of the biggest issues we could face, and there's going to be a lot of separation on that issue as we get closer to the election. It's going to be very interesting. But listen, Austin, it's great to hear you guys are having higher water in the Mississippi River, and that life's good for you guys. And keep up the good work and stay safe, my friend.
Thank you, Ricky. And Gulf Coast is doing great. Keep it going down there. Keep spreading the word.
You bet. This has been Austin Golding from Austin Gold Line. We'll see you after this break.